Hi guys! This kind of video is a little bit random, but I just kind of wanted to talk about my journey with intimacy and relationship and, partnership and what that looks like. I don't want to go too much in depth because there's definitely a lot of different layers and angles that I could go about speaking about this. But today I just want to look at the aspect of women in a relationship, especially the type of woman that I've always identified with, which is the wild woman, the free woman, the person that can't be tamed, and my struggles with opening up in intimacy as a result of being that type of woman. Definitely always identified with, warrior type, traveler, independent. And a lot of this I always thought came from how my soul wanted to express itself. And that was just different from other people, and the way that your soul's expression can be different. And that was okay. But as a result of really looking at what my heart yearns for, I'm starting to understand and uncover on a visceral level that what I thought my heart wanted and what I thought was, my life path was actually a shell that I've created for myself. In the ideology of my mind, it's always made a lot of sense, like that I was seeking kind of be the explorer. But when it really boils down to my relationships, it's just caused so much hardship. Like it's made me leave every person I was ever with. It's pushed up so much resistance, and what it's caused is this complete and utter push and pull that's inside of me. And that's really normal behavior for fragmentation, which means you have certain aspects of yourself that are making decisions that feel really true in your heart and you want to follow them, but those are actually caused as a result of a breakage in your soul's actual wholeness, as a result of pain, neglect, any type of abuse, any type of trauma that was experienced. Part of you can say, I want to be a housewife and I want to serve my husband and I want to feel secure. The other part can be like, I never want to be bogged down by a relationship. I always want to be free. And so I feel like that push and pull was constantly in my relationships. Like, I'm totally yours. Take care of me. I'm devoted. And then the next day would be like, I need to be independent. I need to still, be open, or I want to look at places to travel, and that does not include you in my plans. Things like that. Different ways of just confusing, I'm sure, the men that I was with. And my realization through kind of doing some research on what it is that females want. What is the female essence, energetic essence, not necessarily gender, but what does the female essence truly, truly want? It really is devotion and surrender into the masculine. If you identify with the idea of being taken, but then part of you feels like you're weak or doing that as a cop-out, then this video is for you, because that's definitely what it was for me. It is for me. I mean, it's definitely still a struggle. My evolution is definitely something that you can observe in these relationships. Every single one, I learned deeper and deeper that unless I put down these walls and really allow a stability and a future with a person, instead of constantly expecting like an exit strategy, nothing is truly gonna grow out of this. Like, unless I fully commit in one way or another, even if you commit for a year, right? Like, for people like me, the idea of spending a whole lifetime with somebody is so incredibly traumatic and viscerally painful. But if you commit, even if it's like, okay, let's be together for a year and then we'll reassess. We'll reassess how we're going to move forward from here. Just doing that is allowing you a safe space to actually fully dive into something, fully commit to something. And I've always had trouble doing that, because in my subconscious and in my body, staying and rooting myself felt like absolute death. What I've learned from this is I believe what I thought was my unique soul essence wanting to be free is a shell created by my pain. And there are two shells that are most prevalent within females that they can create early on. And a lot of this happens, you know, when masculine traits are more valued in your family. I know both my mother and father definitely prefer that kind of go-getter, strength, productivity type of personality as opposed to the sensitive, emotional, flowy kind of essence that female qualities have. You can start putting those qualities away and exacerbating the masculine ones. Or, you know, if you saw your mother treated in a certain way and you made a vow to yourself, like, I'm never going to allow a man, you know, to not value me or to trap me in a situation. And I've definitely taken my mother's pain on. All of that, all of these different moments in childhood have led me to deep down believe that trusting in a man is fun. It's awesome. Like, I love it, but it's not long term. And they definitely sure as hell won't be able to understand or fully move with you, fully commit to you, fully, you know, stay with you, all those different things. And so these shells of fear that create in your body, this tension, this cover, this gateway to your heart that is completely closed off, creates a masculine shell of, you know, directionality, that go-getter, that my favorite times are when I am focusing on career or, you know, moving forward. Sitting here, feeling the flow, feeling the energy, allowing myself to surrender into the moment, surrender into the union is a lot scarier, or at least not as exciting or interesting to me as the masculine energy, which is just a shell. I've just identified with this type of energy a lot more. And then the feminine shell that also gets created as a result of this is this kind of outside this outside attention to try and get male's attention. And it's all superficial because you are not fulfilling your feminine true desire of surrendering your heart fully to God in a partnership, to a man, or by yourself. It's the same exact practice whether you're in a relationship or not. So instead of that, you know that every man you meet or see or try and attract with your peacock feathers, you're not truly going to devote or give that part of yourself to them. So it's a shell, essentially. So why have all of these bells and whistles to attract male attention if deep down you know you're not actually going to do anything with it? And so those were two of my shells. Get male attention in some way, because of course we want to be seen by men. We want our true light, our divinity to shine through and for them to notice that. Not necessarily superficial beauty, but for them to admire and worship. Women have that ingrained in themselves. So the realization is that my deepest yearning truly is to surrender to God, to fully give myself to the male essence. And I just cannot. I know this sounds really simple maybe, but for me, it definitely wasn't. Like, I genuinely was like, no, freedom is my thing. Like, freedom is a part of me and I can't stop that. That's just who I am. But freedom was a shell, because freedom is relative. Like, you could have freedom in a relationship, in a union. You can have all of that. Like, this, it's just you're living in a matrix reality of your own trauma. This idea that I needed to constantly be free. And so when the male essence can push past that resistance, can push past your childish pouts, can push past, you know, crossed arm, you know, and is willing and wants to fully, you know, enter the female energetically, when they really are able to just persevere and be devoted to allowing a woman to open up, really magical things can happen. And I'm realizing that my deepest fear about commitment and security and staying in the same place and with the same man, all of that, none of it's true, none of it's real. That for me to contemplate that my true desire and what a woman truly desires is to give her heart in full surrender, to have no boundaries, be fully open, to be fully seen over and over and over again is quite a doozy. It challenges all the misconceptions that you have of women and the feminist movement and feeling like you need to be independent. All of the things I've built up my whole life. To be conscious about wanting to give yourself away to a man is very important here, because a lot of people do it in the kind of shadowy way of what that looked like in a relationship, which is men have all the power, women are subconsciously allowing that to happen and don't feel powerful. The union I'm talking about is one who submits actually has immense amounts of power and is choosing consciously to do so. That's my antidote for intimacy. You know, I really wanted to get to the root of it, figure out, how do I actually commit in a relationship? How do I do that journey? And the journey is you just say yes and you figure out, what do I actually want? Like, I actually do want to be in a partnership. I want to give myself away, and I want the directionality of the man and the trust in the man and the integrity of that man to hold that direction for me, while every other part of me screams like, no, that's not what we do, that means death. And allow those parts that are screaming no because they're filled with fear to relax and to open up to the possibility that that is what my deepest heart yearns for. And that's very intense, because for being somebody as vulnerable as I feel like I am, I have a long way to go with vulnerability. Like a long way. When you get deeper and deeper into the self and melting away, like first it's like, whew, just admitting that, you know, you are not doing okay, admitting to the fact that you're scared, admitting to the fact that you have these feelings can feel like an intense challenge. And this happens a lot in at least my spiritual journey. You do it, it is terrifying, and you feel like, I've mastered vulnerability, like I know what it feels like. But what presents itself is a deeper and a deeper layer. Like, it's kind of saying, okay, you walked through the initial doors, you went through the initiation, but now there's another level, and there's another level, and there's another level, and at the gateway of every level, you're going to feel like terrified. You're going to feel like you actually hadn't mastered it. Then you go through the level, you're like, I got this. I understand emotions, and I understand vulnerability. But then there's another gate, and then you're like, I don't know shit. And that's kind of the way the journey has been for me. But truly understanding that evolving through union and how that can actually manifest and how it's manifested in my life has been extremely eye-opening. That not running away from it and seeking to, you know, feel curious and explore my resistances to being in a monogamous relationship, to seeing a future with someone, exploring that, following that path, seeing what lies underneath that. And you're sitting there when they're chipped away and you're like, that was what was underneath? Because walls really give you a good argument. They're like, I don't want this. This is not good for me. And then someone just chips it away. And they're like, isn't that what you said you wanted? And you're sitting there going, oh my God, what was underneath was, I wanted this more than anything. That's what my heart wants. This video really isn't to tell you what your heart wants, right? Everyone is different. But if you connect to your feminine essence, if that's what you most identify with, just ask yourself, like, what does my heart really, really want? Like, does it want that independence, that like, I'm the go-getter, I'm the career person, and I want the man to follow my vision? Or do I want to submit and allow this other person to take care of me in a way because they hold my best interests at heart, and allow myself to sit in a position where I can relax and open up. Which one feels more true to you? Another part of that is that translates sexually. So if you're a woman who's designed herself to feel less, to put that space between her and a man, then what that causes is you start feeling that in your body. Your body shuts down the same way. So if you're creating shells and barriers against the idea of true intimacy and true vulnerability with another, you can't have amazing, eye-opening, blissful, godlike sexual experiences. It just won't be available because your body will also numb down. Your hips, your breasts, your vagina, they just won't be open. The origin lies in how open are you going to be? Are you really going to surrender to love? Are you going to give yourself up? And when you do decide to make that decision and to have that as a practice, then sex as a byproduct becomes more open because you decide to flow with the true feminine essence instead of putting on this exterior masculine cloak in order to get yourself through life, have a successful career. And all of those things are great and beautiful. The healthiest thing is to have space at the end of your day or at different times where you let your true essence pour out of you. Coming to terms with what my true essence is not an easy thing to digest or stomach. It means it's going to have to be a lot of opening up further and further. There's always more layers that this can go. If you are a woman who's trying to explore intimacy in this new way and fully, commit for the first time in their lives, you'll know that as sexually you open up, the first thing that will arise is pain. All of the barriers and the shells will come up as tears, will come up as a release of resistance. So don't be discouraged if you're with a man who can't open up and see that pain and allow you to go through that process. Then you won't feel safe and you won't feel, it's not going to be a good way to open up. You need somebody who is completely and utterly understanding of your process. And to let that pain arise, and don't be discouraged by that, because that's actually part of it. That's allowing these barriers and these shells to fully emerge and fully be seen and released in order for you to have deeper openings. And it's just going to translate into sex in the way that intimacy translates in your day-to-day relationship. The more you open up, the more you're going to open up in that other way. It's definitely a journey. It's definitely not something that, I've mastered by any means, but it's just beautiful to know what direction is actually in your best fulfillment, as opposed to the voice of the fragmented aspect having a say on where your life is going to go, and realizing, oh wait, no, this is the voice of my trauma. This is not the voice of my true heart. And making that differentiation in your life, and knowing that even though many times you'll be discouraged, just to keep going, find that North Star and know that that's what's in the direction of your highest good. And that's about it. I just wanted to share that deep revelation and insight that I've had in my life. If you want to comment down below and let me know what that's looked like, what your journey into deep opening surrender as a female has looked like, whether it's daunting, whether you've mastered it, I'd be very, very curious to hear. And I'm just sending you my love.